All right, let's talk about something we've all been through, but maybe we've kind of forgotten what it's really like. I'm talking about the teenage years. And today we're going to get an inside scoop from someone living it right now, someone who thinks he's cracked the code. So say hello to Max. He's our guide for this explainer, and he's got something pretty important to share. It's this idea that, most adults have totally forgotten what it's like to be in his shoes. So Max thinks he's figured out this fundamental truth about being a teenager. And he did what any of us would do with a game-changing idea. He wrote it down in the most sacred place possible, the very last page of his notebook. Because, let's be honest, everyone knows that anything written on the last page of a notebook, that's the really important stuff. So what's his big secret? Well, it's a simple idea that he's convinced most of us have either totally forgotten or just don't get anymore. And here it is, his big manifesto, right? It all boils down to this. Being a teenager is just so much harder than you think. It's not just about getting older. Nope. It's like a whole new set of problems gets thrown at you, and he's going to break it all down for us. Okay, so let's get into it. The very first problem, the first battle you face, according to Max, it's your own body. Yeah, this is where everything starts to get weird. We're talking hormones going crazy, hair showing up in new places, and, oh yeah, the pimples. And this just perfectly sums up the whole facial hair dilemma he's talking about. It's a total no-win situation, right? You either have like 3 hairs trying to be a mustache, or you have so much that people are asking if you escaped from the zoo. There is no happy medium. Right? And the war against pimples, it can make you do some pretty desperate things. Max tells this wild story about some guy who came around selling a miracle cream who then robbed his house. I mean, it's a crazy story, but it just goes to show how much pressure you feel to fix these things that everyone can see. But, this whole struggle isn't just happening on the inside. As your body starts doing its own thing, your social world completely changes too. All of a sudden, you're looking at everyone else, and you're absolutely convinced that everyone is looking right back at you. And this is what Max calls the self-doubt checklist. It's like you've got this constant running tally in your head, just measuring yourself up against every single person you see. Is he taller? Or his clothes better? Does he have an iPhone? Is his dad rich? It never stops. And listen, this isn't just some harmless phase. This constant comparison, it has a real price. Max says it just eats away at your confidence, piece by piece, until you get to a point where you feel like you can't even talk to anyone. So with your confidence basically shot, what happens next? Well, that leads you right into the next big quest of teenage life. The desperate, all-out mission to just fit in, to be cool. You end up looking for approval from the very same people you were just comparing yourself to. It's a real trap. And Max tells this story that is just, it's so painfully relatable. He sees some kids playing and asks if he can join. They say, no, sorry, we're already 4 people. He's confused because he only sees 3 of them. And then they point to a tree and say, see that tree? It's playing with us too. I mean, it's funny, but wow, what a brutal way to get rejected. Okay, but let's say you actually make it. You get in with the cool kid. So what happens then? Well, as Max points out, getting in is only half the battle. Staying in is a whole other story. And that's when the pressure really starts to ramp up. And this brings us to probably the most serious part of Max's whole explainer. That need to stay in the cool group, it leads right to one of the biggest, most dangerous parts of being a teen, peer pressure. So let's just make sure we're all on the same page about what we mean by peer pressure. It's that push you get from your friends, from your group, to do stuff you're not comfortable with. Stuff you know is probably a bad idea, maybe even dangerous, all just so you don't lose your spot in the group. And to really hammer this point home, Max tells us about a guy named Abu. He says Abu is the best example of what can happen when you give in to that pressure. He was a college kid whose so-called friends got him into some really bad habits. So after we've gone through all the awkwardness, the self-doubt, and that desperate need to fit in, Max gets to his final, most important piece of wisdom. And it's actually pretty simple, but it's really the heart of his whole message. You become like the company you keep. The people you hang out with, they end up defining who you are. So there you have it. That's Max's inside guide to the teenage life. This whole roller coaster of body betrayal, social anxiety, and just trying to find your place. Which leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? We've heard Max's story, but what parts of it are universal?